We're here today with the McFarlands. We've got Wayne and Barbara and Donnie. Lived in the Price area all their lives, and actually Wayne's family has been on this particular farm and the farm across the road for over 80 years. It's quite an accomplishment to say that you live actually on the same place and been farming there all your entire lives. Welcome and thank you, and congratulations on your honor of being one of the farm families for the 2012 Queen Anne's County Fair. We're very happy to be in your home. Understand that you've been in the dairy business and farming all your life. Wayne, remember back as far as what age do you remember going in the barn with your grandfather and your father?
Well, I was born in 1940, and they had a picture of me one time, and they said I was 2 years old and I was milking one cow that
at 2 years old.
She was nice and quiet, and they said I was milking her when I was 2. So.
Did your grandfather break you into that, or was that your father?
I don't know. I followed along. Followed along.
That's great. And Barbara, you actually were born here in Price, or in Centerville.
Price. About 2 miles. We're 2 miles from Price. Mm-hmm. So I've lived around the 2 mile block all my life.
So you were practically neighbors.
Almost.
In a way,
Almost.
Yeah. Wayne, how did you come to discover that there was a nice young lady living down the road from you? How did you figure out that her family lived in Price?
Well, her mother worked in the store.
Okay.
And for a lot of years, and I was in the store quite a bit.
Right.
So I'd always known the family, and sort of hometown, so you know.
Mm-hmm. You knew all your neighbors, knew everybody.
Yeah,
around.
we knew everybody in the neighborhood those days.
Right. And Barbara, when did you discover that there was a young man that was living down the road?
And they brought baseball right across the field from my house.
Oh, I gotcha. Mm-hmm. So he was playing ball, and they came into the store to get drinks or whatever else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, good. So then at what point in time did we decide that, maybe that we needed to have a little couple situation going on here? A couple years later?
Yeah, several years, I guess.
Barbara, tell us how you met and how the initial hello started. Other than the baseball field.
Other than the baseball.
Right.
I was at a Steve Wade hop in Chestertown with a friend of mine. And he happened to show up, and we happened to be out on the dance floor.
And you just took a little turn around the floor.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, that's not too bad. Then you were married when? How long was it after the Steve Wade hop? A couple years or 3 years?
3 years.
Yeah.
3 years?
3 years.
Probably.
And then where did you live after you got married?
In Price.
Mm-hmm. So you basically never left home?
No.
Neither one of you?
Not really.
Isn't that funny? And that's funny. So how long were you married before your oldest daughter, Sandy? Is that correct? Okay. How long were you married before Sandy came along?
She was born in 66.
Okay.
1 year.
All right.
Next year.
And then your second child, Donnie, who's with us here today?
2 years later.
2 years later. Mm-hmm. So raising the kids on the farm, good thing? Donnie?
Definitely.
Definitely. What was your earliest memory of with milk, fooling with the cows, or being out on the tractor with Poppy? Or
They had me in the cow barn, and that's when they had the old bucket milkers. And I wasn't big enough to hold a full bucket of milk, so they put it like 2/3 full, and I'd walk that down and dump it.
Dumped it in the milking house. And for those who don't know, there was a thing called a dumping station, correct?
That's correct.
Right.
And it would just hold the milk and then pump it into the tank, and you dump the bucket of milk from the milker into the dumping station, right?
We actually had a vacuum pump, so we brought the milking station in the barn with a long hose up to it.
Wow, that's
Just
pretty
sucked it right
nice.
on through.
That's pretty nice.
Saved a lot of steps.
I believe
Yeah.
that dumping station, and it's still upstairs. And
It may be still up there, I'm not sure.
That's going back
some
a
of the
few years.
milkers are.
Yeah, some of the milkers are still there.
Yeah, that's a hot commodity these days, these old milkers. Yeah. What's been probably the biggest challenge for you as a family here on the farm? Look, our wheels are turning.
I guess dealing with the same thing every other farmer deals with. Dairy farmers, you know, you're dealing with all the issues of growing feed-free cows and droughts, and as we just talked about earlier. There was a lot of dry years. The late 80s and the 90s had a lot of dry years. And it's still going on today, so.
Yeah.
Hadn't changed much, has it? We did have, back in 89, Donna and I did start the Bourbon Brook Hunting Preserve for several years. Right.
89?
Yeah, we started in 89.
So how'd you decide to get into that? What kind of thought process did it take to get,
we were doing some sporting clay shooting at the time, and one of the places we did a lot of shooting, you know, they were carrying out hunting parties, doing that kind of work. Donnie being always really interested in the hunting and the shooting and the banging, you know, he something he wanted to do, so we did it.
So now did you have live birds, or you had the
Pheasants, chukar, quail.
We didn't have a sporting clay range, we just had the live birds.
So then you would basically take the hunting parties out, or were they release birds, or?
Yeah. Milk the cows, take hunting for it.
At 4 o'clock in the morning, milk the
Come
cows,
back, milk more cows.
take hunting parties during the day, and milk cows during the night.
Did it for 17 years.
Luckily, when we first started, at least it was made on weekends. We didn't have too much going on.
First started was slow, but it ended up.
For 17 years.
Yeah.
Barb, when did you decide to go off the farm and work?
The year that Donnie graduated, I decided that I needed to get out and about.
Right.
So,
She said she wanted to prove that she could do something besides keep house.
I guess the first year I started working down here at the store with Mom before they closed the Price store.
Right.
And then I went to work, supposedly had been part-time
Right.
with the county.
Right.
And then just retired.
Well, it turned into full-time right away. So.
Yes.
Retired in February of '09.
February of 09, 3 years ago. Tell me about the grandchildren.
Sandy had Danny and Devin. And then Donnie had David. And then there was Kristen. And then Sandy had Kelsey. And then Donnie had Brianna.
Okay.
Mom's got all that straight, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does. She has that down pat.
That was all pretty close.
Yeah. Now, did any of the grandchildren, when you were milking, help with the milking or the farm work? Any of them kind of seem to be interested with the
Danny was.
operation? Danny?
Pretty much. Yeah, he was really in the barn a lot.
Do you remember hanging out with Poppy?
Yep.
Did he ever go hunting? Take you hunting or anything?
He
No?
was not a hunter.
No?
Nope. If it was up to, I'd have never went hunting if it was up to
He did hunt a little bit when I was little. He liked to go rabbit hunting. But I remember hearing him say one time that every time he went hunting, it seemed like he had to do twice as much work when he got home. So he just might as well stay home and do it. So he didn't hunt very long in life. He gave it up.
Donnie, did you decide when you were a teenager that you definitely wanted to stay on the farm, or was it just like...
well, showing cows back in 4-H. And loved it. Went and FFA and all through high school.
Right. Just part of your blood.
Didn't know nothing else.
Yeah.
Pretty much that's what it is.
Farming
Just fall right into it.
What you did, so. But I had a lot of fun with 4-H and FFA and went a lot of places and learned a lot of things through dairy judging and showing cows. And we, 80, say 84,
Uh-huh.
our county team won the Maryland Dairy Dozen competition.
Oh, that's cool.
And then we got a free trip to Kansas City, Missouri to compete in the Nationals and placed 5th in the country.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a quite accomplishment to be 5th in the nation. Just from little old Queen Anne's County. Barb, what did you see through the years that you think was the most challenging for you as a farm wife?
Well, when there was problems at the farm, the problems came back to the house.
Yeah.
You know? In other
Right.
words, if
No, I never brought home.
if Wayne wasn't happy, Barbara wasn't happy.
I remember one day, I don't know how old I was at that
You
time.
can't get any closer, can't you?
How old would I have been when you were gonna go bale hay or do something and the cows got out and you fell off the back of the truck and
Oh, my
you
goodness.
come back with bruised and bumps and blood and
You fell off the back of the truck?
She
I
did.
did.
Oh, you did? Oh.
We had a running board, and I was,
She didn't realize that when you stepped off a moving vehicle, you weren't just gonna stand still. I would roll along, she stepped off and over.
Were you driving the truck?
Yeah.
Oh, that wasn't
I was
good.
gonna lasso up some gals.
She was riding on the running board and stepped off while I was still going.
Oh, no. What do you think your greatest accomplishments have been?
Surviving this long. And literally, I'm truthful. For me. I've had too many close calls.
People don't realize what it takes to farm and what you do every day, physically and mentally.
People have no idea. They really don't.
It's different now, but back when he was farming, the danger.
Yeah.
Look at how many older farmers are missing fingers or hands or, they're everywhere.
I always was amazed that I've still got my hands with the old corn pickers. Oh my goodness, you were into them all the time.
Right.
And people will say, oh, you shut them off before you get work on them? That don't work. If they're jammed up, you had to let them run to get it out. And that old equipment back then didn't work like the new stuff does. It was as much trouble to keep going as, it was primitive, basically. In that transition from horses to motorized equipment.
Right. No safety shields or
No,
belt
no,
covers
no.
As a
or
kid,
Nothing.
every piece of equipment we ever went and bought, it was used. It wasn't new.
Right.
We didn't buy anything new.
New equipment. It wasn't really junky equipment. You always had a certain amount of repairing to do.
And then we went to a 3-row chopper there in later years, and then we ended up, once you get milking that many cows, we were milking 150, 145, 150 after we built the parlor. And that's when we started getting a custom operator to come in and they chop it all in
for
2
you.
or 3 days.
That was the smartest thing we ever did. The feed quality was better, and it was
Work yourself to death.
over and done with.
And it was
On
done.
time, finished.
Yep.
You know.
And I guess the love of the farm. You know, even though we had our hardships and our ups and downs, and you still wouldn't want to live anywhere else except here on the farm. I personally, we've been a lot of different places, but I wouldn't want to live anywhere else except for Queen Anne's County. I mean, let's face it, we have a very, very nice county.
Great. In public speaking, I did a speech on, it was titled Maryland,
Maybe you're right.
because look at what we have.
Right.
We have everything right here. We have the Atlantic Ocean, we have Chesapeake Bay, farmland, mountains. It's all right here.
It's all a little world in one little state.
It is.
And that's quite a memory after all these years, Don. It's pretty good.
I had a 5 or 10 page report or whatever it was on that thing I did.
Did you win that year?
No.
Yeah, there you go. I think both their children enjoy 4-H though, I think. I wish I could have got my grandchildren to,
Well, that was
Join
we looked for. I
4-H.
mean, of course, at that time, Queen Anne's County Fair, when I was showing cows, the barns were full. There was one year they put ropes out to the trees to tie cows up because the barns didn't hold all the cows.
Right.
It was big back
And that's not been that many years ago.
No, and if you could win at Queen Anne's County Fair, you had a super animal, because you could go to the state fair and win over there with that same animal.
Right.
And that was saying something to go to the Maryland State Fair. And
I mean, you're a third to fourth generation. Donnie's been here on the farm with you. The McFarland family, let's sum it up.
Down to earth, worked every day, and like all the other dairymen around, and I used to call it 24/7. If you weren't there, you were on call.
That's right. Yep.
And
I always considered it a hard life, but a very good life.
I don't know where you could live and raise a family and appreciate it more than you could right here at home. You know, I get pretty fortunate to be able to stay here, where I was born and raised, and just carry it on.
That's quite an accomplishment to be on the same farm in the same area since the 40s. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 80 plus years in the same spot.
But you know, you never really give it a thought about doing anything else. You just fell in line, and then Donnie come along, he fell right in line. And just kept on going.
Do you miss the cows?
Only when we talk about them. I did for a while, but I got over it.
Yeah.
But you start talking about him and he can go on and on.
But here, well, just a week or more ago, started talking about some of the old show cattle we had, and you know, the memories keep coming, started coming back. You know.
Well, milking cows, you either love it or you hate it.
Well,
There's no in between.
I did some of both.
It's a double-edged sword.
It is.
Days you just love going out there and being with the animals, and other days.
I guess at the end of the day, if you have to love it to do it, so.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.